to wait once we get into the game. Here we are, game number 1 on Oxide. In the top right, repping that mouse for years, he is HeRoMaRinE.
His opponent in the bottom left-hand side playing as the Blues Air hot team Shopify Rebellion. It's Lambo. We know that they both wear the freshest clothes, eat at the chillest restaurants, but who's the hottest player between the two? That's what we're going to find out here.
Exactly. That's why we're having this best of 5, actually. Not to determine who advances in the bracket, but just who is the hottest German player who eats at the coolest restaurants. We're going to find out. I do say that Lambo is probably on one of the coolest teams that we've had emerge. Not to show too much bias, but Shopify Rebellion, that's pretty darn cool. Love their branding as well. Follow the guys that actually did their graphics. I'm still an art nerd at heart, I suppose. But gotta say, HeRoMaRinE repping Mouse for, what was it, since he was 14? What you're talking about, I think, on Sunday? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's it's one of those guys that, you know, if they ever have a Hall of Fame, I think he's pretty sure he's the first one to ever be inducted, and it's been playing with them forever. He's a loyal guy, I guess you can put it that way. Lambo, you know, I feel like he's been very impressive, but I also think that HeRoMaRinE's TVZ is just absolutely monstrous. He knows really well how to adjust to whatever composition the Zerg's playing, whether it's Mutas or more ground-based. He had a very successful 2-0 against Stefano in the groups. And actually, I studied his TVZ, you know, a decent amount. And I feel like he really understands when to go for the big push on 150 supply when Combat Shield's about to finish. So that's what Lambo has to watch out for. Lambo, on the other side, he had a 2-0 against Seoul. He even won one game where he literally only made Lings and Banes. So he's obviously pretty damn good in it. I don't expect that to be as strong against somebody as good as HeRoMaRinE. So let's see exactly what they're going to.
I think it is a lot about the momentum that Lambo is carrying that might actually push him into victory. Because as far as like a true like if it was only macro and micro being tested, right, and we kind of get rid of like the idea of momentum, or we got rid of the idea of like confidence and the map choices, like whatever, right? I think HeRoMaRinE is going to win. Not that Lambo's mechanics are bad, but just HeRoMaRinE can be damn close to perfect on his good days. So, but fortunately, that's actually not all that entails a best of 5 victory. There's a lot of other things that go into it besides macro and micro. Another big thing is, you know, the build order choices can sometimes go favorably for the Zerg player. Very few all-in options, unfortunately. That's kind of been agreed upon from a lot of Zerg players, at least some of the top Zerg players anyways. Like the 1-1 Roach all-in, that still exists, and on Oxide, actually. But, you know, early game stuff, only if you really think HeRoMaRinE will go for 3CC every time. Clem does, so you might see it against Clem in the future, but HeRoMaRinE's actually been going for a bit more of the Banshee play, Hellion Banshee, and not just because he's defensive, but just actually want to do some damage, take control of the game.
Yeah, he's very good with the Cloak Banshee. We usually see a lot of 3rd CC from him as well, but instead he will favor more aggression in the early stages here and kind of delay that extra economy to build that up. So as much as he won't build up the economy in terms of having a lot of units out on the map, like he's one of the cleanest macro out there, always gets a lot and attacks at the right time. I'm curious whether he will try and sack the Hellions. Usually is, I would say, a bit more conservative, unless he sees, you know, a weakness in the armor of Lambo and he thinks there's a good opportunity to attack. Great move actually here with the Reaper down there. He targeted that with his own Hellions to get that Crypt Tumor out of there and prevent Crypt Threat.
Yeah, it was very nice. Just little bits hopefully adding up, as HeRoMaRinE does need to do some damage. So much more of TVZs have been on that 3CC before the Banshee, or just 3CC, no Banshee right into barracks. So to actually commit to this 2 base is it's kind of old actually. And it does need to do some damage, at least throw Lambo off his game, force him to anticipate some things that, yeah, maybe are actually coming. Maybe the Hellions won't dive. Maybe there is no armory and there is not, right? But he still has to take these things as threats until he gets that full scouts, which he did get an overlord in just now and saw that transition over into the barracks, saw the 3rd CC at the front. Another game will continue on. Lambo grabs a fairly early lair. And we might see a Spire come out pretty darn quickly. The Baneling Nest just for that safety. Doesn't help very much against the Banshee, which has already grabbed 2 drone kills.
Yeah, Lambo overextends a bit here. I mean, he knew there was a Cloak. It's okay, though. Quints, it takes a lot of hits to get them out of there. It's pretty well defended, I gotta say. Spores in perfect location. Good amount of Quints, very well positioned as well. I guess the few mineral patches at the expansion that are the highest is what's more exposed. Actually loses 2 more drones here, Lambo. Perhaps could have reacted a bit quicker. That 4th base, there's a Banshee next to it. So HeRoMaRinE pick up on that, he could get a cancel.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time that he actually skipped over canceling the 4th hatchery, but that is a vulnerable spot, which is why Lambo's trying to make a Spore Crawler there. It's actually going to be more vulnerable against the Hellions and Reaper, I suppose. The Banshee does join in for that extra little bit of DPS. It's going to be enough to take out the Spore Crawler, but the lair's done. And the lair was not for a very fast Spire, but rather for a very well-timed centrifugal hooks, and the upgrades will be coming in as soon as he has the gas for it. But the Queens come in, Overseer is available, pushes it away. Hatchery is going to live, it just takes a little bit of damage.
Okay, Stimpack just finished. It's time to start Combat Shield here for HeRoMaRinE. And usually his move out will happen just before that completes, and he'll siege at the edge of the creep, which he's trying to push back right now. Double eBay was already there, of course, as always. And Lambo, he's only sticking to Ling and Bane, kind of as I talked about earlier. This is his style. He's very, very good with this. Usually he'll be the one sometimes taking the fight to the Terran before the Terran can even start attacking. And the way you do that is that you morph a lot of Banelings on the other side of the map. You attack into the 3rd base usually. And you basically say, okay, it's very hard for you to defend. And at the same time, if I kill enough, you're going to have to step on creep. And that's where I'm going to crush you.
The faster centrifugal hooks definitely helps with that potential aggression, the counter that would be at this point as the Marines dip in for the 4th hatch. Lambo is distracted trying to surround those Hellions. Does send the Lings over as fast as he quickly can, but damage is there on the hatchery. The Banshee is still alive. They're going to look for a couple extra kills where the Medivacs could not find any, but it seems like a solid defense so far. Just a little bit of a distraction with the Hellions, but now they're gone, and that is no longer an option for defense back at home should Lambo actually send some Lings across. It looks like he is trying to just simply overwhelm this drop, send it absolutely packing. The reinforcements, I don't know if they'll be enough. Well, actually, yeah, they should be. Lambo taking that fight a little longer than anticipated.
Yeah, and you don't really have Banelings. He has 0 Banelings right now. He's morphing 11. Yeah. This attack is pretty massive by HeRoMaRinE. He's a macro monster. My goodness. 140 supply to 122 right now. Lambo, some of the Banelings are about to finish. HeRoMaRinE, can he react quickly enough? If they start connecting, it's going to be a disaster. Quints trying to buy a bit of time. HeRoMaRinE is in his face right now.
And not a lot of creep spread to work with. 2 Widowmines still ready to pop off on the Banelings. Should they get too close? And there we go. Widowmine is going to connect with the Banelings, and it's only down to 3 now. Those are going to be focus fire. Not quite able to do that, but still picks up about 2 Medivacs worth of units. And that was not a terrible trade there for HeRoMaRinE, but it is a successful pushback for Lambo. Now he can breathe, rebuild the Banelings, and get his creep spread going.
Yeah, that macro hatch, that's pretty interesting. Maybe he didn't have so much faith in hitting all of the injects because he knew he was going to have to defend with Queens at times, which he did. And yeah, we got 7 Queens right now, but they're not spread out around those hatcheries injecting everything. That could end up being a big problem for Lambo if he's lacking the lava to produce enough units to defend against those attacks of HeRoMaRinE.
Yeah, another Widowmine popping off on the Banelings. So far been pretty darn effective. Still enough excess units to push it back, but I'm just worried for future engagements. That's a good point about the Queens. I mean, that might actually be a problem for Lambo as you see him starting to bank up quite a few minerals. It might exactly be that issue. Widowmine drop hitting is natural. He does spread, but it takes his attention away. It denies the mining. These Widowmines going to take a while to clean up, and a drop to the left side is going to find a defended, or not defended rather, drone line. As the Spore Crawler is the only thing here. Lings do pile in before the hatch goes down, but 17 drones have gone down, and HeRoMaRinE is not stopping.
Yeah, he's finding a bit of damage everywhere, and he's going to be playing with a lot of Widowmines. Drilling Claws is almost finished. Lambo will engage, because HeRoMaRinE was on creep, and actually it doesn't really give him time to set up the concave properly. Drones are in there somehow. You guys need to get on home and start mining there. But Lambo, that was a big cleanup, but he's lost 20 drones recently, so his economy took such a big hit.
And it did. I mean, that fight, luckily it went well, right? Because he needed it after losing so many drones and starting to really feel the pressure. The last few Lings not able to take on the Marines that had just finished up 2-1. Banelings need to roll in and actually connect here as the Lings come from behind. It should be a cleanup. And Lambo was absolutely correct to take the engagement when he did. Because I think most importantly, well, yeah, HeRoMaRinE wasn't prepared. The fan out wasn't there. The concave wasn't there. The Widow Mines also weren't burrowed and were still clumped. So that was a trade there on the Widow Mine count. It's still pretty strong though. Still 8 out on the field as HeRoMaRiNE's macro is in full swing. He's finishing up his 2-2. He's already started his +3 attack. Lambo apparently just not close at all to getting into Hive Tech.
Yeah, that's because they keep trading.
Scary.
Even though he's defending all the time, actually overextending a bit here, stepping off creep for a second, HeRoMaRiNE just not stopping. And that's what he's forcing here. He's forcing trades all the time. Lambo unable to take to Hive. He still doesn't have a Spire. He's just pure Ling Bane with the support of few Queens. And what he's been able to defend, he's going to start falling super far behind as that 3-3 eventually completes for HeRoMaRiNE, who's now on 5 bases, 4, against 5 for Lambo.
Yeah, but it's like 5 that aren't like consistently mining, constantly being interrupted, constantly under threat, so that is a little bit scary. But at least Lambo has settled down a bit, has gotten some more creep spread. I do believe that Lambo is really hoping for an engagement to go more his way so he could initiate some type of run by and actually bring the pressure over to HeRoMaRiNE, but he hasn't been able to do that so far, so it's just been non-stop pressure on his side of the map. He's the one taking a lot of damage, forced to make these last-second trades that aren't necessarily going super well for him, which means that HeRoMaRiNE's just in the driving seat, right? So his macro is getting to pump out, doesn't have to worry about very much, he's going to finish his 3-3, continue expanding as well, and eventually have a gut punch, it feels. Like eventually his army will move all together down the middle and hit Lambo's 4th base.
The game has been so chaotic that Lambo even forgot +2 melee, so it's so late. He's 2-1 against 2-2, and soon there's going to be 3-3 as well for HeRoMaRiNE. He's almost halfway through done with this. PF is up on the 4th base for HeRoMaRiNE, so he's safe there, and he's pressuring very heavily at the bottom in the meantime with some great free splits. And that's just so power, by the way. This is really sick. I was talking about this earlier. Like, Lambo loves doing Zergling run-bys into the 3rd base with Banes. With this Sensor Tower, you would see that coming from so far.
That's a very good point. It's also just been the case that he's so aggressive. Lambo's always been on the back foot. He's never really been able to set up any type of run-by. He is taking a fairly good engagement here, but HeRoMaRiNE has so many more units off to the right side. Lambo is like trying to predict these things, but just doesn't have enough reinforcements coming in. Just like 6 Lings, and then the rest of the army is going to be too late to actually save this hatchery, which is certainly still necessary. Lambo's trying to get to a Hive. He's trying to get to something a little bit beefier in those Ultras, but still has no way, of course, to deal with the Medivacs. Finally gets a Baneling run by in, and it gets 10 SCVs. Not bad, but it's like the first one this entire game, and it wasn't even that devastating.
Yeah, HeRoMaRiNE down to 67 workers. I mean, big deal. He has triple orbital. He's on 4 bases. Very well saturated evenly as well across the spaces. Attacking on the left-hand side again. He knows that he has more army. Almost double the army supply. Look at it. HeRoMaRiNE pushing through and finding damage. He's everywhere. He's in the natural, in the 4th base.
And that might just be it. Lambo's got some units on the other side of the map hoping for a miracle, but they're just going to grab a sensor tower, and that's going to be it. HeRoMaRiNE with the push, including the Marauders, was just way too tanky. Even if Lambo had a surplus of Banelings, it was going to be hard to take a good fight in his position. Game 1 goes to HeRoMaRiNE. And I think it was a lot that Lambo never got to play his game. You brought up the run-bys, you brought up the way that Lambo likes to play, and he never got it. And it started with one of those first pushes. Lambo couldn't quite push it away strong enough, fast enough, didn't have Banelings, and maybe he actually meant to make them, and it was like, oh no, I don't have any. And from that point, HeRoMaRiNE just never let go. Lambo was, I think, really hoping to have more of a back and forth, and instead it was just him being pummeled.
When you play this kind of game, like, it's really hard not to think that like you're facing a superior opponent, because you're just like trying to defend as best as you can. And not only is the opponent attacking you the whole time and finding damage here and there, he's also developing himself, teching, getting all of the upgrades that he needs, taking bases on time. So it just feels like you're getting outplayed big time. And yeah, that pressure from Gabe. He didn't even run in with the Hellions. He played conservative in the start, but then once he starts finding a little bit of damage, even just 2 drones here and there with the first Medivac, then it begins this snowball effect where we'll find more damage with the next one because of that. And some of these Widowmine connections, by the way, were pretty massive. And I have to wonder, is Linkbane the correct answer? Like, is it okay to play without Mutas at all? Because every time that HeRoMaRinE was attacking, it was using his ground army, but the Medivacs were never getting cleared out of there.
Yeah, I think the problem is that this is not an uncommon thing to see from Zerg players, and especially Lambo, but I think it really does have to have some type of counterattack opportunity. Like, you're supposed to be able to overwhelm so much that if they overstep, they're forced to bring their Medivacs home. It's not killing the Medivacs, but it brings them home. They have to like unload on top of a Link counter, right? And it gets a little bit awkward from there. We've seen that happen all the time, actually, where the Zerg player is the one that gets to strike first in a counter, I guess, and actually carry the momentum. But it just never got to happen for Lambo. Very uncomfortable game for him. And this guy in the top right can now feel pretty good about his TVZ chances. He is the Red Terran, HeRoMaRinE.
His opponent in the blue playing Zerg for Team Shopify Rebellion is Lambo. You know, they call him Big Gay because of his sheer size, but it's also, they should call him Big Gay because of his army. Like, this guy just pumps out so many Marines. He's relentless, always on the aggression. And Lambo he was doing really good at first, but then slowly started taking more and more damage. He was sending his entire army to defend on one side, and then damage was being found on the other side. And that's how he started falling further and further behind.
Right. Not able to quite have enough at every different attack so that he kind of bled each and every time. There's one decent attack where I think the trade would have been okay had other trades also been okay. The one where he found HeRoMaRinE on creep and not quite paying attention, but that just wasn't enough. Actually, something unique here. HeRoMaRinE goes for a command center first. I do say I think it's extremely unlikely for Lambo to do a supremely early cheese. And of course, a pool first just for a couple of lings doesn't actually cancel the command center if it's built first. So it'd have to be an actual dedicated early attack, which, yeah, Lambo's not really the guy you would predict that for.
Yeah, usually, I mean, he doesn't really have to. He could just, his goal here should just be to play standard, try and play his game, which was shut down in game number 1, but it's not like he was super one-sided or anything. Yes, he was HeRoMaRinE doing better, but with a few adjustments, I think if Lambo maybe wouldn't overreact sometimes and send all the queens in one position, if he would leave a couple lings on the one side that he's not currently defending with the rest of his army, it might have been okay. And if he hadn't taken damage and been on, like, 5 bases long enough without starting to lose drones, that's where really Zerg really starts putting it together a lot better. Like, you can go into Hive and all that, you're getting all of your upgrades. Yeah, +2 melee was forgotten about, which was a very big deal here, being 1 and 2 upgrades against 2/2 for a long time in that game.
Right. Even taking a fairly unlucky attack timing where he had 1-1 and HeRoMaRinE had 2-1. Yeah, it's supposed to be a bit faster on that regard, but he might try it again and kind of fix those mistakes, because then I think he was close to taking a good enough engagement to pushing HeRoMaRinE back for long enough to actually take a breath, but it just never quite got there. It is a bit concerning, though, just because, like, as you said, it can feel like you're playing just a straight up better player. And that was on top of HeRoMaRinE actually doing kind of like a middle of the road build, a little bit of defense, a little bit of offense, not really quick, fast third CC. Here we have a quick natural command center. That's great. But then far more interesting, HeRoMaRinE really changing it up, is 2 factories. So potential for some blue flame is here.
We're going to get that German barbecue. Let's get those currywursts on the grill. Throw in some pumice. And with the starport, he actually is going to have some extra initiative. Like, it becomes even harder to counter, right? If you only have the Hellions or Hellbats on the ground, it's one thing. But then if there start being a Medivac as well, it becomes even scarier. So, and they get even more mobility with potential drop inside of the main base. So Lambo, what has he really seen here? Just the CC timing. I wonder if he knows about this type of build from Gabe. Yeah, we have the Tech Lab on the second factory, and the Viking is about to shut down that Overlord. Perhaps, I think, before it's going to see anything in the main base.
I think so. The Marine already being on top of this Overlord makes it awfully difficult for Lambo to get the correct scouting. Now, I like how Lambo's trying to do it. Oh, no, he actually stops. I thought he was going to go all the way to the right. He doesn't know where he's supposed to be looking, of course. Like, this would just be sheer guesswork. And unfortunately, he does not choose correctly. Viking was going to come out anyways. And yeah, probably stopped before saw anything. Definitely does now. Lambo is completely in the dark. Nothing from that mineral line told him anything. Nothing on the front lines is telling him anything. He's just kind of like cover his bases against a variety of things. And, you know, this is one of those builds that is still rare. It's been used before, but it's still rare, and you don't expect HeRoMaRinE to bring it out.
Lambo is just getting 5 overlords at once. Kind of weird at this time, unless he plans on just making a lot of units soon. Wasn't very consistent with the production on that. I feel like I got a, you know, I guess English speakers would say déjà vu, but actually déjà vu in French. And I've seen that build before, I think, when I cast one on the Open Cup with Roddy, where, from HeRoMaRinE. So maybe Lambo is aware of this. And Banelings is kind of what you need to get to blow up those Hellbats and get the defense. But it does feel like they're going to be very late here. He's not even morphing them yet. 12 links on the way. Oh my god, there's so many Hellions. I'm scared, Jess. I'm scared.
He should be. He should absolutely be scared. Lambo has a Baneling nest to defend against like a normal Hellbat attack if it were to occur. But at 5.5 or almost 5.5 minutes for Blue Flame to show up, as Hellions, they are dangerous. As Hellbats, even with Banelings, they're still dangerous. They're going after the drone line. The third is pretty undefended, as the medevac in the main actually not going to do a whole lot. Looks like HeRoMaRinE sized up the situation, said that Hellbats weren't the way to go, and just is going to use them as Hellions, which is such a good decision to make. There's the pickup on the medevac, and even though there's 3 queens waiting, I think if they unload, they can get a lot of damage done. Oh, 2 of those Hellions very, very weak, but managed to actually avoid the queens. Yeah, that was not as much as HeRoMaRinE is hoping for.
Oh my god, he's gonna boost away even lives with 3 Hellions inside. That was a big save here. So he killed 11 drones, and while he can, you know, obviously it feels pretty bad to lose 11 drones. I feel like it could have been so much worse. Like he was close to being way worse than this. But now HeRoMaRinE still showing up with way more Hellions. He's gonna unload some of them, transform them into Hellbats. The Medivac just healing those guys up. And perhaps, I guess he just goes on the cancel from the 4th base. Oh, I think he's gonna drop the main maybe on the left-hand side and attack the 4th at the same time.
Very unique way to follow this up. And then those medevacs that he makes pretty darn quickly, but, you know, actually be reactoring out medevacs right now is actually a decision he's making. Later on, they can include Widow Mines. So it's hopefully for HeRoMaRinE non-stop pressure. Lambo would love to clean things up as fast as possible, but he's got to be careful with the splits that can happen with the number of Banelings he has. It's not really going to be a super easy defense on every side. Already down to 4 Banelings. Hatchery getting awfully low, has to be canceled. Queen's even struggling to take on the Hellbats to the left. Things will be cleaned up, but Lambo maybe not cleaning up as fast as he would like.
He gets the cleanup though. Again, like I feel like it's one of the situations where yes, he took some damage, but he cleaned up everything that was being thrown at him, and he only lost 2 drones here. So yes, he lost he got the cancel at least on that 4th base here. Now we got 4 Mutas on the way. Against that many Hellbats, I guess you don't necessarily want to open where you just pure link Bane and keep on attacking. You never really know how much more of those there's going to be back at home. HeRoMaRinE is already up to a lot of Widow Mines here. He's got 7 spread out everywhere. I'm afraid of if this Muta's flying a little bit too sloppily, that could be trouble, but he doesn't have turrets yet.
Yeah, that could be an issue. I mean, there's actually a couple things at play here, you know. HeRoMaRinE did dedicate to more medevacs, so his barracks weren't as fast reactors they could be in the medevac side, so that kind of sucked. He didn't do as much damage with the second attack as he would have wanted. But Lambo cleans it up. That's great. Still has to cancel a 4th hatchery. Then gets supply blocked, which is one of those things where these types of games, you do have to be paying attention to even the pros macro, right? Because there's so much happening. And now we have HeRoMaRinE with a lot of Widow Mines, a little shy on the Marine count, but making his missile turrets just the nick of time. Because that was really the only worrying thing, was that these 6 mutas, not very impressive, would get into a free mineral line.
If he had started losing SCVs, then we got a reverse from last game where Lambo is the one pressuring the entire game. He's just slightly ahead in supply, then he keeps on finding damage here and there up until he eventually swarms HeRoMaRinE. So very important not to let that happen. He's adding a Thor. And I've seen HeRoMaRinE play, by the way, as on the other side he's still being aggressive, but Lambo saved all of the drones. Very nicely done. Yeah, I've seen HeRoMaRinE play against the Link Bane Hydralis style, and against that he transitions into tank, but here he's probably happy he doesn't have to, and he can just play with so many Widow Mines. He's up to 10.
I mean, we saw the strength of a very Widow Mine-based play earlier on in the last year, actually. Even, you know, Pure was kind of making them really shine bright. And while there was kind of a going in and out of meta, I think that you bring this style back in every once in a while, especially off the back of that Blue Flame opener, and it is tricky for the Zerg to get into the groove. They might be defending everything at face value. You look at the drone kills, and maybe it's not that much, but it's constantly keeping them on their side of the map. They're missing injects, they're getting supply blocked, and it's still overall a game that the Terran can feel comfortable in, even though they're not actually doing any push, which they might now, but 10 minutes, certainly not like any previous game we've seen.
There was a Thor stuck in the main base for Gabe. So he actually had to leave the barracks and kill one of the add-ons to get out. That big boy. He could have actually sent a medevac if he wasn't planning on making more, but he was planning on making more because the factory is all the way at the back of his base. So HeRoMaRinE kind of fixed that. Took him a little bit, but as long as the Thor gets there on time to fight, it's okay. And now he's setting up around the bottom while finding some damage on the left-hand side. He just lost 11 SCVs though.
Yeah, I think a run-by happened into the planetary, so... Well, the Lings couldn't do anything. 11 SCVs still went down. Some Widow Mines once again dropping into the third, kill a couple of drones. They've also killed a Muta or two successfully. And HeRoMaRinE is still holding his position over to the right side. That's not all of his army, though. He's got plenty of reinforcements, including the Widow Mines, which, ooh, just a little bit of a misfire there. Actually still splashed the one medevac, though. So he lost 2 Mutas, but killed a medevac.
Lambo, it feels like he's doing pretty well this game, but his upgrades are very late in comparison. We're going to have 2-2 finishing in a few mere seconds for HeRoMaRinE, whereas on the other side, it only now started. Actually, he lost just so many Marines before that upgrade completed. HeRoMaRinE maybe needs to just regroup and push across the map with all of his army, but he also is playing kind of conservatively, leaving units back at home. Lambo, he's hesitant. He was going to engage, then he saw how many Marines there are. He doesn't really know how many mines there might be in the area, so... He's just going to pull back for now.
Yeah, he saw the one Widow Mine almost take out his Lings. Then the Mutas got bopped by the Thors, and they're like, yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. Let's regroup. But that is going to give HeRoMaRinE a lot more confidence, a lot more time to reinforce his angle. And he's got 2 Thors actually just providing almost force field to the front against those Banelings. They're taking so much.
And Lambo caught 2 medevacs full with units in the top left and killed them both. So he used the fact that at the bottom he has enough creep that HeRoMaRinE cannot quite step on it and fight effectively. Lings are going to run by into the expansion, maybe inside of the main base as well. No, there's too many units. So he has to get out of there. They're just trading all over the place. These two really are the hottest 2 German players.
Yeah,
right,
it's actually really nice that Lambo caught the 2 medevacs to the top left, but unfortunate that he couldn't get the correct timing on that run by. He's finally cleared up the Thors, and there's not much left over afterwards, so HeRoMaRinE's got to get away with whatever we can. So 3 medevacs, almost full of units, attacking to the left side as well, clearing a little bit of creep spread, but it is a bit of just like kind of a Terran run by, no medevacs involved, overly stimmed already, and doesn't look very convincing as far as a push. I think HeRoMaRinE would be better off actually consolidating, waiting for 3-3, but that's also when the Mutas suddenly start doing damage to his main production. They're at a count of 18, and they do have that +1 flyer, so they're going to tackle buildings successfully, even taking out medevacs, and of course distracting HeRoMaRinE from the front lines.
And now you can just stay there and keep on threatening. Widow Mine will get caught down there. There's only 1 turret inside of that middle line here, but there's 1 Widow Mine, so that's kind of scary. Lambo, if he can start pressuring like this and pin the HeRoMaRinE on his side of the map, this is really going to be quite amazing for him. Turns around for a second, but the bio is still looking very, very strong. And he's buying himself time right now, even though like he's not achieving the most damage. That's time where HeRoMaRinE is forced to kind of look on his side of the map, be a little bit worried about these attacks, and that's delaying the attacks that Lambo would be worried about himself, as he's morphing so many more Banelings. He's already up to 20, and he's morphing 19 more.
And then adding on those upgrades, he's got a Juno Gland about to finish, making the run-bys especially deadlier. And he is starting up his upgrades for the Ultras. But it's going to be a while before the Ultras can actually be a part of this fight. That's okay. He's still maxed out on Ling, Baneling, Muta. Takes on the left side engagement very well. That might open up an opportunity for HeRoMaRinE to move in on the right. There's a lot of Banelings, but not much else to protect them. So maybe HeRoMaRinE can find some success. And Lambo is just going to commit on this side of the map, maybe go after the planetary. Currently going after the reinforcements. The planetary will fall, but also an engagement is trying to be had on Lambo's defenses. The Banelings were mostly taken out. HeRoMaRinE might have an opportunity. It's a bit of a base trade here. As the planetary falls, Lambo might be losing his 4th base.
I don't know why Lambo didn't go for the turrets up there. It's 2 of them. One of them is going to burn down, actually. He evacuates 6 o'clock as he's trying to regroup with enough Lings and Banes. He's going to move back with the Mutas to try and catch this army. And I think HeRoMaRiNE's anticipating that this is happening because he's not seeing the Mutas on the other side of the map, so he's trying to retreat closer to Widow Mines. And he should be able to get out maybe if he runs away. Now he's forced to turn around. The Lynx and Mutas were close enough, and this is going to get cleaned up. Lambo with a gigantic cleanup, but they're still very close together in supply, and HeRoMaRiNE uses that opportunity to buy time on the right side and set up an attack on the left side.
These mutas are awfully low in health, but still at a strong count of 17. I'm looking at more of the Baneling count, however. Only 5 Banelings. 5 Ultras half popped with Chitin splitting. Very shortly going to be on +3 Carapace as well. But HeRoMaRiNE has taken down 2 bases for the price of 1 at this point. So Lambo's going to do some return damage. Not going to find any success with a run by. HeRoMaRiNE snatches that hatchery and then it's just going to 1 back.
Ooh, some Banelings actually get caught on their own. There is no Ultras. But HeRoMaRiNE already has quite a few Marauders here. If he was more Marine heavy, that would have been maybe trouble. He's on 48 Marines, at least has the 8 Marauders. 13 Widow Mines are on the map currently. Mutas go back to the main base of HeRoMaRiNE. They're looking for all of these add-ons here. Reactors, tech labs. They don't discriminate. They want to take out all of them. And this is very big damage, which is going to force a counter-attack from HeRoMaRiNE against all of these Ultras, Lings, and Banes now.
Oh, this is how things get topsy-turvy. The Terran in a rush might accidentally go on creep against Banelings, against Ultras, so HeRoMaRiNE has to defend against the Mutas, which he looks like he finally does, as well as control his army on the front lines. Lambo, of course, needs to make sure those Mutas don't run over a Thor or Widow Mines, while also defending against the multiple attacks on all of his bases. Lambo has lost 2 bases, make that a 3rd one to the bottom right. He's replaced his 4th, and he has kind of a secret base to the top left, but he's also losing drones. Things have gone topsy-turvy, but it looks like at the end of the day, it favors HeRoMaRiNE.
I can't believe Lambo has top left somehow. Like, he just squeezed in a hatchery there. If he actually would saturate that and he wouldn't get spotted for a while, that could end up being really good for him. But he's just lost 21 drones. He's falling super far behind in supply now. And HeRoMaRiNE just refusing to take critical damage on his side of the map. He's the one that dealt it on the other sides. And now he's in the driver's seat. Almost maxed out. 50 supply ahead in army.
That is quite a bit. Both of them really don't have a very strong economy. It's just that Lambo can't fill out his supply. He's already used up his bank. He's lost his economy so many times over. He's got to take some really good engagements to make up for it. The muta count has been replenished, about to be up to 20 once again, and that can take down Medivacs, Marauders as well if they're not covered by enough Marines. And that's exactly what they're doing, clearing up some drops, chasing down some reinforcements. But Lambo has also lost a lot of creep spread. He needs bases, and the one thing he's got is a top left base that, while hidden, doesn't have any drones.
Yeah, Gabe is up to 28 Marauders here, so these Ultras, they're not even nearly as scary as they would be usually here. Widow Mines will connect. Ultras being chased away. I think he's done it here. So much more army supply. And the biggest of Gabes may have gotten the biggest army here that Lambo just couldn't handle anymore at this point.
Yeah. It's been a very back and forth 18-minute game, but Lambo even kind of sighing, knowing that the end is very, very near. He's not going to give up quite yet. Still got that secret base to the top left. He's still got an okay number of mutas, but not much else, honestly. The Ultras, even if their numbers were higher, really don't seem to be very effective. HeRoMaRiNE's Marauder count is insane. He's got 27. And they're consistently target firing. They're off of creep. Yeah, Lambo is going to take maybe one last engagement and then tap out, but where is the engagement going to happen? Can it actually save his life? I don't think so.
HeRoMaRiNE never had his entire army together here. Every time he's fighting on the right side, he has another force on the left side doing damage elsewhere. Stepping on creep might seem a little ambitious. He might just be overconfident because he's got massive numbers. He's even taken the base on the right-hand side, flying the command center that was at the expansion. Everything is red, though. Lambo is kind of pushing this back right now. Would this be one of the games where the soup lies? Probably not, but Lambo definitely putting up a pretty good fight given all things.
Yeah, even at the end, it was a decent fight. He was missing some of those lings to really surround, or of course, if fungals were available, that would have helped. But also, HeRoMaRiNE just had a lot more units. GG. HeRoMaRiNE takes game 2, and certainly a much closer game, more exciting game, but nonetheless now has all momentum on his side, which means that Lambo is going to have to figure out how to actually beat the biggest of Gabes, to actually be the best German player. It's looking very difficult for him. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, it is game 3 of HeRoMaRiNE versus Lambo. We're heading into Blackburn for game 3, and this does not fill me with a lot of hope for Lambo, to be honest. I hope he let this map into the map pool for a reason, because it's been tough for a lot of the non-Terran races on this map. But we'll see what's in store. HeRoMaRinE is leading 2-0 and is looking at this third game as a chance to clean sweep, which he is familiar with. He has been taking out a lot of Zergs, especially in the Open Cup. So let's head into game 3. In the bottom right, for Shopify Rebellion, he is Lambo.
His opponents in the bottom left-hand side, playing as the Red Terran, representing Mouse Sports. It's the biggest of Gabe's, HeRoMaRinE. Looking incredibly good in this matchup. Honestly, I'm very impressed. Last game, it involved a lot of crisis management. I feel like for some players, it's easy to play when you're ahead, when everything's going according to plan. But then as soon as you start being attacked, that's when you have to rely a lot on crisis management, which is not necessarily there every game that you play. But HeRoMaRinE dealt so well with the counter aggression, and he was the one dealing more damage on the other side of the map consistently. And those upgrades, I think they've been the biggest problem for Lambo. It's just been lacking upgrades compared to HeRoMaRinE a lot.
It has been a consistent problem. It's expected for 3-3, of course, but you would hope that the beginning upgrades 1 and 2 would be a little more evenly matched. That's the build that Lambo chose, however. He wanted to get some mutas in as fast as possible to take on a guy who had been throwing a lot of his units and production away. You know, he was doing the Hellbats, he was doing the Widow Mines. He was losing them and not necessarily doing maximum amount of damage, right? So the mutas, I mean, they had a chance. I actually liked the idea. They just didn't actually hit that hard or fast. HeRoMaRinE was actually prepared enough, just enough Marines, correct missile turret timing, and then seemed like everything had evened out. Still a fantastic game from both parties. But yeah, when things get chaotic, it can be hard to keep track of everything that's going on, and Lambo just lost track more.
Yeah, Lambo last game definitely did a better job than the previous one with leaving some units on whatever side he was not going to be looking at in case he gets attacked. But there were a few times he didn't, and that's where he took the most damage every time. But it's so hard because imagine if HeRoMaRinE sends his entire army to the right-hand side, and then you have a bunch of units on the left-hand side yourself sitting there doing nothing. You can't quite have vision in the center of the map to see where the units are headed. It's not like you have access to observers. You can't leave overlords, they will get sniped. So you kind of have to guess where the opponent's attacking and with how much. And that's the really hard part for Zerg when you're trying to defend these attacks from the opponent. So if Lambo can do that just a little bit better and at least leave a few forces on the other side to buy time whenever he's being attacked there, never leave any base naked, especially not your 3rd or 4th base.
Exactly. Clothe those bases, man. They're cold, they're chilly. And I think he did do a much better job of it last game, I agree. I also think he did a better job of actually getting some aggression out on the other side of the map. Of course, mutas made that a bit obvious, that they're supposed to do. But then he also did have a couple of moments where it wasn't incorrect for him to throw those lings and banelings into that planetary. It almost traded out to a point where it was a hatchery for a command center, which when the Zergs usually have more hatcheries, then, you know, that's okay for them. They continue momentum, but it didn't actually just trade out exactly like that. That's also when HeRoMaRinE had barely enough units to defend further aggression from the counter and just enough units to actually punish the hatcheries, the creep spread, take some good engagement. So I still liked Lambo's ZVT a lot more. It's what I want to see in this game, potentially final one for Lambo. And on such a difficult map, too. HeRoMaRinE's going for a 3cc, and that's great. He's going to get an economic boost. But no matter what HeRoMaRinE was doing, I'm worried about this position that we're looking at right here. For any push HeRoMaRinE does, if he gets up to this spot, it's difficult for the Zerg to actually tackle it.
Yeah, maybe because of the map here, but he went for the quicker 3rd command center builds, where I think when he does that, it's almost always the same move out that I talked about before when Combat Shield's about to finish, with around 150 supply if you haven't taken any damage before that. And that's the really hard push to defend for Zerg. I'm curious if he's going to make tanks, actually, because he kept on making tanks when he faced Stefano, but Stefano has a different style. He plays more with, like, you know, Hydralisks and stuff. So in game 1, HeRoMaRinE made 2 tanks back then, and then in game 2, he made 3. But so far against Lambo, we haven't really seen that. It's been a lot more Widow Mines being made, which last game, you know, very high Widow Mine counts being reached early. And for Lambo to defend on this map, Maybe that's why we're seeing it here. Should be easier on paper, right? Unless the main base starts getting dropped a lot, which you can kind of see coming as well.
Yeah, that's the other thing about this map is that you can engage your forces in a siege position past this little slow zone and then keep them there and just try and drop. Because even when you get to this point where the Hellions are, and it seems like a bit more of a surround opportunity, there's still that doodad in the middle and there's still rocks that don't really get broken very quickly. Not yet anyways. Maybe in the future this map will be figured out kind of like Golden Wall was, and we'll see, you know, quicker anticipation, but anyways, not being broken down right now. Just further creep spread as HeRoMaRinE looks to deny it as much as possible. Does pop off on 2 creep tumors and is headed on his way to the barracks engineering base. Lambo once again adding on, I guess, a bit of faster layer. This time no banelings. There we go. As I say it, baneling nest is coming down, but the layer's already done. So if this was for the faster centrifugal hooks like the first game, it's definitely not going to be as fast as possible. It's a little bit awkward. Overseer is available thanks to that faster layer, which might have been more reason to grab it. You did know Banshees were on the way, but it's a little bit late.
Oh, the Banshee's doing a lot of damage. If the Queens go down here, that would be pretty disastrous. At least Lambo has one on the expansion ready to inject. He's already injected the main before he rejoined the position with the Queen. And he gets the defense here for now. But HeRoMaRinE going up to 3 bases this quick, that's always a very scary prospect, because he's just a macro monster. And he always goes for his upgrades super consistently. Adds barracks 4 and 5 via the expansion. Beautiful SimCity. Like every single building position is always like super well thought of. The wall and the expansion, perfect.
Well, HeRoMaRinE's going to try and find some more damage. But it seems like after the initial, what was it, like 3 queens? Yeah, 3 queens going down. That is finally it for the Hellion Banshee portion. That's already more than Zerg players are usually willing to give up, especially when their lair was so close to being well-timed. It just was unfortunate the queens were trying to take the engagement before the Overseer. So that's, well, that's done and over with. Lambo is mindful to break down these rocks as quick as really possible, so I definitely like that. And he's got his 4th hatchery on that gold base, so Lambo 71 workers are actually giving him quite a lot of income. Here's that first push. HeRoMaRinE actually, okay, I was going to say a little awkwardly spaced, but that was the Hellions. Just going to the top. He's going to punish this gold base.
Yeah, but, well, he might be the one getting punished here. He moved out with a tank, which is very uncommon, actually. Maybe he misread like how many units there were going to be, but he actually defends super well here. He picked up on time. He's just going to sit at the edge of the creep, kind of start pushing back, because that creep's getting out of control right now. It's progressing very fast everywhere. Lambo will redrop creep tumors immediately. Intercepting that was very important for Lambo. If he had let HeRoMaRinE set up there at near the gold base, might have started losing some very important drones. And yeah, combat shield's about to finish. 150 supply for both players. We do have 2 tanks, and he's getting a 3rd one right now. This is going to be the super strong timing for HeRoMaRinE to fight here with 1-1 versus 1-1.
Lambo's fairly well set up for it, though. He's actually going to go for it, but reinforcements have arrived for HeRoMaRinE. It's going to be all off creep. The tank's looking to take some of those banelings down. Don't really get too many shots, and now that there's an overwhelming Zerg force looking to carry in with the momentum, and HeRoMaRinE has plenty of reinforcements. Never doubt the amount of units this guy has. He even brings in the Banshees to support, and Lambo, while he does push HeRoMaRinE temporarily, HeRoMaRinE's still got so many units. He's just ready to go once again.
Yeah, Lambo may have engaged here because he was hoping the reinforcements wouldn't be there yet, but there were. Even though he got rid of the tanks immediately, HeRoMaRinE is left with so much units. And the creep spread is progressing everywhere, but it's not near those Richmond or fields. So if HeRoMaRinE can get up there and set up behind that, that's what Lambo is really trying to prevent. But HeRoMaRinE keeps forcing those fights off creep, which is perfect for him. With those banelings, they can't connect nearly as well. Banshees in the main trying to take out an Evo. Not sure that's intentional, but if they end up canceling the +2 attack, oh my goodness. He's getting engaged at the top here. Lambo coming in, he brought the queens as well.
Yeah, they've been on the front lines for a while, actually getting involved in that particular fight. HeRoMaRinE does deny +2 melee, funnily enough, but it was at the, not at the cost of the army engagement, because he was paying attention, but it seems like it's the biggest benefit from the army engagement, was that at least he got the +2 melee. As he is pushed back, Lambo did contribute a lot of banelings to that fight. He still hasn't spread his creep. The follow-ups, which was really worrying, because we've seen it already. 2 previous games where Lambo is barely able to hold, and it seems like he could take a breath, and then HeRoMaRinE just comes back in and strangles him. So once again, already action underway, and Lambo is falling farther and farther behind, actually. He's got less and less creep spread.
Yeah, he remade the Evo actually in the exact same spots to where it died. And actually missing a bit of gas here. Like his natural base doesn't have any extractor taken. He's only on, is that 4 gases? Wow. That feels really low. Like ideally you should already be on 6 here for sure. But he's actually floating a lot of gas somehow.
Yeah, this is actually a bit interesting because he's also going up to Hive, so I would have thought more gases, but nope, and he still has so much in surplus. Lambo is desperately trying to make as many lings as possible. His minerals are the real problem here, despite having the gold minerals untouched. That's been one successful thing about his engagements, is that he's had his gold minerals. It still overall is not enough. HeRoMaRiNE's drop gets cleaned up, that's great, but he once again is pushing forward, finding all of those creep-spreading queens. They do manage to escape, but all of their hard work is being cleaned up. HeRoMaRiNE's also going to push into more of a choke down south more than north, and Lambo needs another great surround. He thinks he's got it. The Banelings roll in, a little bit on creep, but there we go, off of it now. HeRoMaRiNE pulls his Marines back and is still have so many units. He still has so much. He's going to continue forward, scan ahead, say, okay, I can't quite take that on, but I can stay here.
Oh no, Lambo, he had 2 lings inside of that mineral line of HeRoMaRiNE on the 3rd base. And I think he F2 then sent everything back, but now he sent another force there. The Queen's actually cleaning up the medivacs. HeRoMaRiNE taking a long time to react because he was looking at his 3rd base. Those links finally finding some damage. Such a chaotic game. There is action everywhere. More Banelings being morphed. Both players on the low worker counts, given all things, right? Like, we got Lambo on 59 workers against 53 SCVs now. He's lost 13 drones in this game. He can probably feel that. He might want to try to squeeze in a few more drones, because he's on 5 hatcheries on 5 different bases, but he also has to make so many units to make sure he defends. Adrenal glands finally started and upgrades. Still want this one upgrade behind. He never restarted +2 melee.
I did not, and HeRoMaRiNE, I mean, fortunately, he's got to start at 33, so ultimately has the upgrade lead. Lambo is setting up for a pretty big surround by the looks of things, waiting for a couple more units. Here we go. This is actually one of the best surrounds yet, perhaps. The Banelings do connect with some of those Marines, and HeRoMaRiNE once again gets pushed back. I absolutely agree about the drone count, not just because in general 59 drones is not that great for a Zerg, but because the gold minerals are starting to mine out. You know, that lower drone count gets more worrying. But another engagement here. A tank is siege, gets 2 pretty big blasts on those Banelings. The Marines are starting to fan out, however, and Lambo just can't get a good enough fight to actually take out HeRoMaRiNE's army. There's always just a little bit too much.
Yeah, I like that Lambo added 6 drones, by the way. He didn't overdo it. You know, it's not 12. It's not 2 either. Like, he just added a good amount. He's going to catch this army here out in the open. The Lynx, on the other side, if they get all killed and don't kill much themselves, that could end up not being so good. But he's catching Marines as well while he's defending at the top. And HeRoMaRiNE never took a 4th base because of how much action there's been. So he might have to fly his main orbital to a new base. And he's running dry very quickly on those mineral patches because, you know, he's on 3 bases against 5, whereas Lambo has like his drones spread out across all the bases.
Yeah, HeRoMaRiNE doing a very classic 8 racks all in, really. You know, you kind of can lift your main command center, but it gets more vulnerable, especially now that Lambo has adrenal glands. But you don't really get a 4 CC. Your upgrades are going to be a bit later. As we see here, still not starting any 3-3. I think they, at least attack usually starts, but HeRoMaRiNE has not had time to go for it. Once again, fanning out, looking for the engagement that actually tips the scales, actually pushes Lambo over the edge. I think this might have been it. Lambo's now down 40 supply. He's been at a stable 20 supply deficit for a lot of this game, or even the same supply. Now down 40, I am getting quite worried because I'm not sure his situation's getting any better, right? Like, sure, +2 melee might finish, but is that really going to take on HeRoMaRiNE's supply, his Liberators, the tanks, the medevac count that never got destroyed? Lambo's going to need something extra, and it is going to be a good run by, perhaps. Nope, once again, HeRoMaRiNE reacting too quickly.
It's almost like a desperate move by Lambo. He just counterattacked, hoping that maybe HeRoMaRiNE will move his entire army back. But HeRoMaRiNE a little too good for that. He's like, well, I don't care. I can defend with just a few units at home. Why'd I keep on pressuring you with a gigantic army, 111 army against 52? Lambo moving in, looking to try and clean this up here. But there's so much Terran. And there is still some drones right now in this army for Lambo. So you can tell it's falling apart a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit for sure. The queens also have been taken down thanks to the liberators, so there's actually really nothing to take them on. Lambo's going to try and run with the momentum here as he did find a lot of connections with the banelings, but the liberator zones are looking a bit too strong. Usually not effective against baneling, but are going to stop all reinforcements. HeRoMaRinE is going to lose some of his SCVs, forced to lift his third, and actually Lambo gets his things on top of the production, which was not supposed to happen.
Wow.
But perhaps those upgrades with adrenal glands actually started to really kick in, get out of the liberator zone, get on top of that production, but HeRoMaRiNE's also moving in. He thinks he's got this game, yet still 20 armor supply lead, but he could be running into banelings. I don't see any. This actually might be a totally fine move for HeRoMaRiNE to do. Usually so risky on creep, but if there's no banelings, then what's really going to stop him?
Yeah, and there's 4 queens only left against 7 liberators. HeRoMaRiNE with a clean 3-0 shuts down the Lambo hype.